research objective work. On that note, I open the floor for discussion.
Thank you very much for this panoramic view and this attempt to analyze the both reality. But I think that the question, especially for Slovenia, but Slovenia it isn't Yugoslavia. This is the first data, and also the Slovenia has very different region traditions, because the countrysides around Galicia and Trieste, Terst, isn't a countryside along the Croatia border. It isn't Upper Kmurje, and this is also one very important data, because in the past we have different also juridical tradition. In the Slovenia has also the influence by German and Roman law. This is also very important data in the history of gender between medieval period and today. And I think also that Trieste countryside and also part of Eastern countryside is very different from Veneto rural area. The role of Trieste in the in female social mobility, especially in the secondary and small trade activities, was very important, and women between the 18th century and the 20th century, peasant women were strong involved in economy, and this phenomenon changed the relationship in the family. I wrote one book about that, and I studied especially the female testaments, and we have in the countryside, in Trieste countryside and also in the Koper countryside and Istria, a very strong presence of female testaments in rural area. And so I think that the situation is more complicated, and we could absolutely have this regional perspective. Sorry for this very long remarks, but I think to reflect all these very important questions, we must introduce also this regional view. Thank you.
Okay.
Do I have to ask you now, just to you collect Dagmar? What do you think it's better?
What is easier for you?
Ma questo non ho da rispondere.
Of this there are not. Nothing to say.
I wanted to also to give a suggestions, but maybe we all have to take into account. Speaking of these border areas, I think we have to go back to our past and maybe to understand in a proper way the transformation of the role of the women in this area. We have to take into account also the Habsburg period. That was absolutely for the laws also, for the maternity. Dagmar, you know better than I, of course, all of this. But in cities like Trieste, like Gorizia, like Ljubljana, I think that played for the emancipation of women in work, because I agree with you when in this period we have really to separate maybe still the family area and the work area. Then everything changed after World War I. And maybe in the upper classes changed also before World War I, of course. And then the role of religion, again. Because if I think to the Friuli area, Friuli is divided in the mountain area, it's divided in the Piedemontana, I don't know how, but in the area that was also more near Udine city, and was strongly influenced by the Veneto, and so also by the mentality, long-lasting Catholic mentality. Otherwise, and also in the Friuli, in the deep Friuli, in the sense of Carnia, and so on, also there, religion played an important role, especially after World War I, and especially for what they had to live after World War I, the invasion, after Caporetto, and so on. The difficult, I think, sometimes we are facing in treating this area is to compare it not as a block, but as divided little pieces in a puzzle. And maybe, I don't know, because expressing this in English is not so easy. Maybe I could be better in Italian now. But maybe this can work, for instance, what you said before about the role of the family, of the father, like in the Veneto, for a part of the Friuli, but I don't think it works, for instance, for what was the reality of the Slovenian part also of Trieste, of the Carso, in these things. They were strongly linked with the city in the two aftermath of the war. So I think that when we speak about borders, when we deal about borders regions, maybe there we have a more complicated and intertwined situation. And I always ask myself which kind of model can we model can we use to? But I think that this project is a way to give an answer to this. It is really complicated. I don't know if I've been clear, but it was just some suggestions from your nice talk. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, it was really insightful. I think this putting together this data is really thought-provoking in many ways. But I would maybe want to start with something which is a profound question for me, looking at these questions you're asking us.
But it's not that easy here to hear.
Do you hear me now? Okay.
No,
Slowly. Okay. Sure. Okay. So for me, the kind of maybe philosophical but still basic question is, can we speak about political struggle by women putting outside social realities of these women? In my view, there is no political struggle which involves women which does not refer to their social position. And Yugoslav case, I would say, teaches us very much about that. Most important female politicians during socialism were, of course, functioning in society where, feminist or female issue was proclaimed obsolete because we are all now the same and it's only social, we can speak only on social mobility of everyone, not of women and men. Like we reached gender equality, that's it. That was the main ideology. But when you see what all these politicians like Vida Tomšić and some others in Slovenia and former Yugoslavia was doing, they were actually fiercely fighting all the time for the basic female rights, like reproductive rights and everything else that is basically universal issue everywhere. So, and they would be much less of politicians or important politicians without having that on the top of their agenda. If they be just the politicians to fill some quotas of having women in the Yugoslav high political structures, no one would talk about them anymore. So that's something I want to ask back, like, can we speak also in the Italian case about women in politics if these women basically don't address anyhow social realities of female population?
Don't address.
Social reality, if they are just politicians without addressing, if they disentangle these two things, like social objectives and on one hand, and political struggle on the other. Yeah.
Rimane separata.
Secondo lei chiede come funziona in Italia?
Ah.
Perché non è separabile, è nella forma di Jugoslavia.
Non è separabile?
Non è separabile, secondo lei questa cosa, mentre che in Italia funziona.
I think she should answer, and I have a question. I have a few comments. Speaking Italian, we can.
No, in quanto